Welcome to RetirepreneurTV. I'm Donna Kastner, your host, and we're thrilled to have you join us for this, our third show. For any newcomers to this program, here's the quick scoop on Retirepreneur. We're a digital community that's committed to help those aged 50-ish and above make a smooth and successful leap from full-time job to part-time gig doing work they enjoy. Who wouldn't want that? You know, today we're living in a world that's chock full of disruptions. Some are good, some are not so good. And one life stage that's experiencing all kinds of disruptions is retirement. For past generations, when you hit age 65, they threw you a party. They celebrated a career. Then it was on to leisure pursuits and travel, grandkids, maybe a few extra rounds of golf. This phase lasted maybe a decade, give or take. But today's 60-something is a whole new breed, unlike previous generations. For starters, many are living longer, so now they're planning and funding a much longer retirement, one that could last 3 decades, maybe more. And this new breed is more health conscious, more vibrant, and more committed to make a difference. They're hardly ready to stop, but they crave a more flexible blend of work and play. So that's where we come in. At Retirepreneur, we're hosting workshops where these folks can meet one another, help one another, and we're also sharing tips, tools, templates, and more on our website, retirepreneur.com. Retirepreneur is more than a concept. We're championing a movement to reinvent what it means to work in retirement. And now, on to today's program. We're about to introduce you to someone who's tackling this retirepreneur dream from 2 vantage points. She's a retirepreneur herself, well into this transition, and she's coaching others who are trying to do the same. Meet Angie Pohlman. Angie's a connectivity consultant who coaches people on the fine art of building a network and finding common ground with colleagues and clients. Angie, welcome to Retirepreneur TV.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. I was thrilled when I heard about what your show is about.
We're thrilled to have you. And for those watching this at a later point, I got to tell you, there's a snowstorm and Angie just like bravely shouldered on. So thank you for that.
That's right. We get through it.
Well, I got to tell you, so we had a conversation yesterday, and I was just fascinated by your journey, so I think I'd like to start there.
Okay.
Can you kind of tell us, you've had a number of career segues.
Yes.
You're in theater, Chamber of Commerce, consulting. Can you kind of give us some highlights?
Sure. My husband and I both started out at the Cleveland Playhouse in the early 80s, and we were there for about 6 years and started a family. Had a child in 87, a child in 88, and a child in 89. And, you know, that was one of those life stages where something had to change too. So I decided to stay home with the kids till they were all ready to go to school. And then just as my youngest was going to school full time, I saw this teeny tiny ad for what I now call my magic job. I was looking for something that would allow me to be with a variety of people, would never be like boring or stagnant. And I found this ad in the Sun Messenger for a job at a local Chamber of Commerce. And I'd never been at a Chamber of Commerce before, but I figured, what the heck, let's go check it out. And it did turn into a magic job for me.
What made it magic? Why do you describe it that way?
Well, for a lot of reasons. First, it allowed me to be home when my kids were home. It was a very part-time job and work while they were at school. But it had all of those elements I really love in working, and that is a lot of different people, getting to know a lot of people's stories. There were events every month. There was a lot of opportunity for me to grow personally and professionally, as well as get to know a lot of really amazing people. And that's one of the things I loved about the Heights Hillcrest Chamber, is the people that I met there.
Well, and these are people that are joining. That's what they're looking to do, is to connect.
Yes,
so,
absolutely. And one of the things that you learn in theater, like any collaborative art form, is that you bring people together around a central idea. You put the right people in the right roles on your committees and that kind of thing, and everybody works together to achieve something. So those were the magic elements of the job at the Chamber of Commerce. And the first time around, I was there for 6 years. And then another friend tapped me to see if I might be interested in another nonprofit venue, and that was an organization called Project Love. And they're a character, excuse me, they work with teens to help them be role models for their peers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, character education organization. And so I did marketing communications and grant writing and worked on their TV show. And that was a great place for me to be, excuse me, as well. And then about 4 years into that, the Chamber of Commerce tapped me on the shoulder to see if I might be interested in coming back. And I went back in 2005 and was there for 11 more years. And once again, the Chamber of Commerce work was so rewarding because I was able to work with all of these business owners. But because the Heights Chamber is a multi-city chamber, it also gave me an opportunity to grow in facilitating opportunities for the cities to come together as well. So a lot of really rewarding
How wonderful.
work.
It sounds like we were on the same path. You were a little more efficient because my 3 sons are 84 to 90.
Oh.
So we were on that same mom work kind of thing. And and looking for flexibility, like today, you know, millennials, this is definitely a reality. In that time, finding part-time work that was fulfilling, it was challenging.
Well, and that's why a lot of my friends kind of chuckled at me when I said I was going to find a magic job that would be fun, rewarding, and only part-time. But it was there, you know?
Well, and then we moved to your consulting, but I want to put that aside for a moment.
Okay.
Because there's something else you shared with me yesterday.
Yeah.
So my husband and I are kind of looking at a future point where we do downsize, and we're flirting with even an urban relocation. And we've got our sons. We both, another common path, we have our children are all over. Yours are globally, mine are nationally. But you did a dramatic move, downsize. Talk to us about that.
Well, you know, my husband and I decided a few years ago that when we did decide to dial it down, there were some things that we wanted to achieve. And one of them was living mortgage-free, living minimally, and having the ability to travel more. So we decided a couple of years ago to go ahead and downsize. And we've had this teeny tiny little condominium on the west side of Cleveland for over 30 years, and believe it or not, we had the same tenant for 34 years. But my husband convinced me that we ought to try really living minimally, and we went from living in a home that was altogether about 2,500 square feet to our teeny tiny studio, which is 400 square feet.
Okay, so like, I think even in our early days of a studio apartment, like 400.
It's tiny. It's tiny.
So was it hard? How'd you make that transition and that big, you know, a family of history?
Right.
How do you make that transition?
And we had been in our house for about 18 years, and we lived in South Euclid for about 30. So, you know, it was a big transition moving from one part of Cleveland to another. But the biggest task was the time it took to get rid of all of the stuff that we had accumulated in 30-some years of marriage, raising 3 sons who were very active and involved and had camping equipment and musical instruments, none of which went with them. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Oh yeah, the museum in the basement, right?
The museum in the basement. That's a really great way to put it. So we tackled it a room at a time, you know, and it took us about a year to get rid of enough stuff that we felt comfortable. Oh, now we can let people in.
And it's emotional.
You know,
I'm just starting that,
is.
and I'm opening boxes of like the cards they made for Mother's Day. And so what's funny is I'm taking pictures on my phone and texting them, going, remember this?
Well, and the funny thing is, you know, millennials today, they want to be nimble, you know, so they don't want to take all that stuff with them. And knowing their mindset really kind of helped us with the emotional part of it.
That you bring up a really good point. So, you know, there's this kind of generational thing.
Yeah.
And I think that each generation has some incredible gifts.
Yes.
And millennials, that nimble, I want to,
Yes.
I love that about millennials.
I do too. And, you know, I chatted with you yesterday and told you about my son, Tony, who in the ultimate of nimbleness, decided to make a move to Australia for love, and literally sold everything he owned and left here with 2 duffel bags and moved to Australia 3 years ago. And that was kind of an inspiration from us, you know? And I think, you know, parents are always inspired by their own kids.
For sure, for sure.
So for us to see our son do that, it helped us.
He kind of charted the path for you a little bit there.
He really helped us out with that, and it's okay. Make memories. You know, you don't have to hang on to everything.
It's not about stuff.
Yes.
As George Carlin used to talk about our
Yes,
stuff.
I love George Carlin.
So you're in the smaller space,
Yes.
You're living day to day,
Yeah.
and then you're launching a business, and you are in a smaller space. Talk to me a little bit about that.
And fortunately, my living in a smaller space, my husband did some very clever things, some IKEA hacks, and dual purposing
Excellent.
pieces of furniture so that our small dining room table actually slides along a wall unit of shelves, which is also my office.
Nice.
Yeah, and you know, anymore, it's so easy to keep things online. So I don't have to have a big filing cabinet and all of that. And the nice thing for us too, with the day-to-day stuff, my husband does sound at the State Theater at Playhouse Square. So running a business from my home has given me the flexibility so that if he's on the run of a Broadway show that comes into town, he has some time during the day free a lot. I can do my work kind of whenever. And so
Nice.
it gave us a lot more time to spend together.
And that's, I think that's the thing we crave, because
it
we were
is
going
the
through all
thing
these
we
phases,
crave.
and this is our time now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I look at your career path and then our conversation yesterday, and there were 2 big themes that kept coming up. Certainly connections, we've talked
Yes.
about that. You are really into helping connect people with one
Yes.
another. And collaboration, taking that connections piece a bit further.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how that is, you know, the work you're doing and how that.
Yeah, well, you know, anytime we look at our businesses and how they're going to grow, I encourage people to think of them as a series of collaborative opportunities. Yes, there are transactions in our business, but what we're really looking for is establishing some really long-term relationships with customers and clients who are going to be coming back. So if you take a look at your offering as an opportunity for collaboration with one or many people, it's a slightly different mindset than I need to make a sale. Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
And that all comes to the relationship building. You know, that's what keeps people coming back. So I try to help people see themselves in a light so that they recognize what their attractor factors are.
What attractor factors? That's
That's
fascinating.
a borrowed term from
Okay.
an author. His last name is Vitali. But there are things that we each have, qualities we each have, that make us attractive to other people. You're not going to work with everybody, nor should you try. But there are things that everybody brings to the table that are of value. And people know their hard skills, but they often don't recognize what it is about themselves that makes them attractive for other people to want to work with them. And so I try to help bring that out of people.
And do you find that when you're working with people that are age 50 or older,
Yeah.
that they have a pretty good handle on where those attractor factors or their strengths lie?
Sometimes they do, and it's just a matter of getting them to embrace them and to be confident about them.
Sure.
Right? And sometimes, you know, we've been taught over decades in our lives about being humble, and there's nothing wrong with being humble, but we shouldn't downplay the assets that we personally have, not
Agreed.
just our skills.
Agreed. So, about a year ago, I think, which is coming
Yeah.
up on your anniversary,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said, you know what, I'm going for it.
Right.
What prompted you to go solo, become this consultant solopreneur?
Well, I knew that I loved the work that I did at the Chamber of Commerce, but I knew I wanted something different for myself, and I didn't want a full-time thing. And over the couple of years that my husband and I were talking and planning for the kind of lifestyle we wanted, At the same time, I was also starting to collaborate with a friend we have in common named Robin Sachs. And we decided to create material for live workshops as well as online training programs. And we had gotten to a point with that where I thought, you know, the house is for sale. We know where we're going there. It's going to give us a little bit of financial room for me to go ahead and take a risk. So some of it was timing, some of it was passion and desire.
And all the indicators kind of lined up, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting how that happens, you know?
It is, isn't
Sometimes
it?
we miss that signal, but it sounds like you were tuned into it. Let's talk a little bit about your practice, and it's kind of 3 different pillars.
Right.
So VENN Consulting, tell me more about that.
So VENN Consulting is where I work with either one-on-one with people or in small groups. My sweet spot is really very small businesses. That's what I had the most experience with at the Chamber, and that's where I feel the most comfort and fun.
And you should wake up every day feeling good about what you do. Would you agree?
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing I think that retirepreneurs are longing for.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. So with VENN Consulting, we all live in some kind of Venn diagram, right? All of the different areas of our lives overlap, and you're either thriving in the middle of it or not so much. And what I do with folks is help them take a look at what they've got going on while they're looking at starting a business or running a business, and find areas where they may need to make a shift, but also find opportunities to collaborate or grow their client base.
That's interesting, and I think sometimes we're running so fast that this opportunity to sit down with someone and take inventory.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. It is about taking an inventory, and it's in those areas where the overlap happens that the opportunities are, especially if you are looking at who you are and what you have to offer, and the people you'd like to work with, what they have to offer and what their value is. And that's where those opportunities to do business together happen.
You know, going back to the collaboration dynamic, so do you find that, so for me, and I'm always trying to fine tune, because collaboration is great, but you got to have the right dance partner.
Yes, you do.
And to me,
you have to date a lot.
Yeah, and the wrong one can be a waste of time.
Yeah. But a learning experience.
Yes, which we always love those.
Yes,
but
we do.
We'd like more of the good ones.
Yes.
But I'm starting to kind of rest on a sweet spot that I want to run by you. I think the sweet spot is there's a certain degree of overlap, common, shared, strengths, and then there's differences where you complement.
Yes, and that's really important too, because by the time we get to being in our 50s and above, you learn that number one, you can't do everything, and number two, you shouldn't try to do everything. So looking for those partners who can help you grow, and you can grow together in each of your businesses, or find partnerships. That's really important, to not have someone just like you.
Right, you already got that covered.
You got that.
We already got that.
And so with Robin, there were areas where we overlapped, but there are areas where we're very different. Robin is one of those people who is just so talented at helping people cut through a lot of the clutter and get focused, right? Clarity. So for Robin with clarity and me with connectivity and collaboration,
they worked perfectly.
They really do go hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's one of those where together it's even more value than separately.
Yeah.
And Robin, if you're tuning in, we're in the
Number
Robin
one
Sachs fan club. But so talk to me about the VENN Consulting.
Right.
You've kind of introduced this Robin project, which is grounded in clarity, and there's more information at groundedinclarity.com.
Correct.
But tell us more about this partnership with Robin.
So, as anyone who works with Robin does, we were chatting and laughing, and we were kind of. We were catching up one day at a coffee shop, and we each had little experiences that were like, oh my gosh, I was such an idiot, or oh my God, I saw an idiot. And we started talking about, well, maybe we ought to just create a class that helps people learn, how to deal with things when they're either running into an idiot or they feel like an idiot. And it really got down to some really fascinating elements of learning to respond instead of react, and taking a breath before you respond to something in the moment. And so we started creating a workshop, which is online now at Grounded in Clarity, and it's called Embrace Your Inner Idiot.
Ah.
Who hasn't been an idiot at one point or another? And it's a class that really helps you become a lot more self-aware.
Sure, that's half the battle.
Yes, awareness is the start to everything.
Well, and that respond piece, like I remember early in my career, a mentor who I valued the feedback from this mentor so much, and he said, Donna, you need to find your pause button every once in a while.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I was like, okay,
that.
You don't have to go just charging in with a response. So I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, as we all are. And then the other part of the workshops that we do are much more business oriented. The Embrace Your Inner Idiot course that's online, it can be good for either personal or professional. But then we have our live workshops too.
Wonderful, and I think both work together. Neither
they
one,
really do.
They kind of work in tandem. So groundedinclarity.com, you can get more info about the events, the workshops, and the online. And then you've got a new project that's brewing for 18. Talk to me about the Entrepreneurs Growth Group.
I'm so excited about this. Another couple of terrific consultants I've gotten to know over the year, Diane Helbig and Megan Apple. It was another one of those things where we all had ideas about ways that we could help entrepreneurs. And so we've put our heads together, and we're going to be launching the Entrepreneurs Growth Group, or EGG.
Nice.
Yes, for people
Gotta
who
love
are,
an acronym there.
Right? Oh, yeah, and that's another thing. Robin and I are totally into acronyms, as you'll see in our videos. But it's for people who hatch and grow vibrant businesses, right? And it will include the Business Opportunity Network, which is a terrific networking and referral group. There will be workshops, there'll be peer-to-peer support, and opportunities for entrepreneurs to help each other too. So we're
Wonderful.
really launching in 2018.
All right, so in fact, we're coming to, this has gone so quickly, and the last question is coming up, but I want to ask you now, if our viewers are tuning in, they want to get a hold of you, what is the best way to do that?
You can go to VENNconsulting.com. And my email, Angie.Pohlman@gmail. Thought I'd make it easy. And we can also put my phone number up as well.
And we'll have this up on the closing screen. So my final question, you had some great videos that I watched last night, popcorn and everything. And there was one on the Grow Your Business Cleveland website, which is another cool site, by the way, GYBCLE.com.
Terrific.
But you talked about the most valuable mentor, and it was your dad.
It was.
Tell us about that.
So my dad was a food broker, and everywhere my dad went, all over Ohio, parts of Pennsylvania, he knew every grocery store manager everywhere. We couldn't go anywhere without somebody saying, "Hey, Johnny," And so I got to see, even though I didn't work with my dad, I got to see him interacting with the people that he was working with. And he had this uncanny ability to make people feel at ease and feel that all of his attention in that moment was just for them. And I learned a lot from him in how he interacted with the people that he was working with. He always had a sense of humor with him. So that was another element I made a part of how I was moving through the world, not just in work, but help people be at ease, get close.
And to really be invested in this person, because we're distracted. That's hard.
Yes.
Awesome story.
Yeah.
Angie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe how quickly this went.
We gotta get you back. And we gotta get Robin here too.
Yes.
But with that, it looks like we have hit the finish line for this program. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you'll join us next month. Be sure to check out RetirepreneurTV for more information, and I'll have all of the links and email address and contact information for Angie And if you're on Facebook, like us there because you'll find daily updates too. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next month.